All right, let's get started. Um, First question is, what is the y-intercept of the equation x plus 4y equals negative 8? So to find the y-intercept always occurs at the point where x is equal to 0. So if I took this equation and I replaced x with 0, I'd end up with 0 equals 4y minus 8, right? Now, oops, sorry, 0. Let's start that over. If I replaced x with 0, you'd get 0 plus 4y equals negative 8, which is just 4y equals negative 8. Well, I would divide both sides by 4, which would mean y is equal to negative 8 divided by positive 4 is a negative 2. So when x is 0, y is negative 2. So the correct answer is the point 0, negative 2, which is right there. Next question. Determine the y-intercept in the following equation. Once again, to find the y-intercept, you want to make x equal to 0. So if I have an ordered pair, I want it to be 0, comma, something. Right? This is my x and this is my y coordinate. So I'm going to replace x with 0. So 5 times 0 minus 3y equals negative 12. Well, 5 times 0 is just 0, so I'm left with 0 minus 3y, so I'm going to write it down here. 0 minus 3y is just negative 3y equals negative 12. And if I divide both sides by negative 3, I end up with y equals negative 12 divided by negative 3 is a positive. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So the answer is 0, comma, 4, which is this answer right there. Moving on to the next question. What is the slope of the line of the following line? So slope is always found in this format, y equals mx plus b, where I solve for y by itself. The number that multiplies my x, my m, is my slope, and the number being added or subtracted at the end is my y-intercept. All I really care about is the slope. So let's take this equation and now rewrite it. I'm going to distribute 2/5 to both of these terms. So when I get that, I get y minus 8 equals 2/5 times x is 2/5 x. Oops, that's ugly x. And 2/5 times negative 4 is a negative. And 2/5 times 4 is negative 8 over 5. All right. Now, if I add 8 to both sides, I end up with, that's a 0 pair, y equals 2/5 x, and then negative 8/5 plus positive 8 is, well, let's just do the math here, but you're probably going to see you don't even need this point, but I just want to do it just to be safe. To make a common denominator of 5, this would be negative 8/5 plus 40 over 5. So negative 8 plus 40 is 32 over 5, so that's positive 32 over 5. Now, that number that multiplies x is my slope. That's my y-intercept. So I didn't even need this part. All I needed to know is that 2/5 is the number that multiplies my x, so there's my slope. What is the y-intercept in this equation? Once again, the y-intercept can be found at the point where your x value is 0. So when x is 0, what number for y makes this equation true? So let's replace x with 0. So 3 times 0 minus 8y equals negative 32. Well, 3 times 0 is just 0. That's going to drop out, so I'm going to continue down here. I get negative 8y equals negative 32. Divide both sides by negative 8 to get y by itself. So negative 8 divided by negative 8 is positive 1y. Negative 32 divided by negative 8, negative divided by negative is a positive, and 32 divided by 8 is 4. So when x is 0, y is 4. That's my y y-intercept. Moving onward to the next problem. What is the slope of the equation? All right, to find the slope, we want to rewrite this in the format y equals mx plus b, where m is my slope and b is my, that's an ugly arrow, but just imagine that has a point on it. This is my y-intercept. All right, so I'm going to take this equation and kind of rewrite it down here. Negative 10x plus 2y equals negative 4. Well, to get it in the format y equals, I need to do what? I need to add 10x to both sides first. So when I add 10x to both sides, that's a zero pair. I end up with 2y equals 10x minus 4. And then to get y by itself, I have to divide this side by 2. If I divide one side by 2, I got to divide the terms on the other side by 2. So 2y divided by 2 is 1y. 10x divided by 2 is 5x. Negative 4 divided by positive 2 is a negative 2. So I get y equals 5x minus 2, but I'm looking for the slope, which is the number that's multiplying my x. So the answer is the slope is 5. Moving onward. All right, this is, I'm going to zoom in a little bit because this gets a little hard to see. Let's go to like 200%. What is the y-intercept of this graph? Well, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis, so it crosses here at the point 0, 1. So there is my y-intercept. Next question. Find the slope of the line. All right, so we have a point here and a point there. I'm going to start with the bottom one. My rise, my slope is always my rise over my run. So if I go from this point up, rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 5, and then I go to the right, 1, 2. So my rise is positive 5, my run is positive 2, meaning my slope is 5 over 2. Let's go on to the next question. It says, write the equation of the line. So to write the equation of the line, we need the slope, we need the y-intercept, and we use the y equals mx plus b format, where this is the slope and this is the y-intercept. All right, so let's get started. Which one is really easy to tell? Well, the intercept, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. The y-intercept is 0, 4, or positive 4. The slope of this line, if I go from this point down to here, my slope, my rise is negative 1, 2, 3, so negative 3. My run is 2 to the right, which is positive 2. So negative 3 over positive 2, my slope is negative 3 over 2. Right? So written in this format, y equals mx plus b, I get y equals what number times x? Negative 3 over 2x. I don't know what this stray mark here was. Plus, sorry, I got messed up my little pen here. Plus 4. So the correct answer is y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 4, which is this answer right over there. Let's move on to the next question, shall we? Okay, find the slope of the given line. Okay, all right, so I'm going to actually start up here and move down to here. All right, my rise is down 1, 2. Let me write this down. Rise over run. So if I start at this point, I'd go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's down 4. And my run would be 1 to the left. So to the left means negative 1. So negative 4 over negative 1 is equal to positive 4. Right? positive 4. Now, if I would have gone, let's say in purple, from here up to here, my rise would be 1, 2, 3, 4 up, and my run would be 1 to the right, positive. So 4 divided by 1 would also give you 4. So same answer, just different way of getting it. So now it says find the slope of the given line. Okay, I'm going to start at this point and move up to here. So my rise, let's switch up the color. Let's go to red because I think it's easier to see. If I actually click on red, my rise and my run. So my rise from this point up to here is up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I went up, so it's 8. Now that I'm here, I'm going to the left. That's negative 1, 2, 3, 4. So 8 over negative 4 is negative 2. So the slope to this equation is, or slope to that line is negative 2. Moving onward to number 11. Oops. Number 11. What is the slope of this line? All right, I'm going to, once again, write rise over run. Here's my bottom point. Here's my top point. My rise is 1, 2, 3. So I'm going up 3. My run, once I went up 1, 2, 3, is 1 to the right, so that's positive 1. So 3 over 1 is equal to a slope of 3. Moving onward, number 12. All right, what is the equation of the line? So once again, we're going to need y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. All right, I'm going to write the slope and the y-intercept in green to kind of help us out. So the y-intercept is the easy one. You just look at it. It's down below the axis, so that's negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6 is the y-intercept. And the slope, well, if I do rise over run, and I'm going to pick this top point and go down and then to the right. So down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down. So that's negative 6 because I went down. Once I'm here, I then go to the right, 1, 2, 3. So 3 to the right is positive. So negative 6 over 3 is equal to negative 2. So my slope is negative 2. My y-intercept is negative 6. So written in the format y equals the slope times x, so negative 2 times x, plus b, well, add to that negative 6. So y equals negative 2x minus 6 is this answer right there. Let's move on to number 13. Number 13. All right. It says identify the slope and the y-intercept, write the equation of the line. All right, so once again, y equals mx plus b will help us, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. All right, so let's start with the y-intercept. That's usually the easiest one to kind of figure out. Well, the y-intercept is here above the axis, so 1, 2, so that's positive 2. And the slope, I'm going to start with this point and go to here. So my rise and my run. Let's see. My rise is up 1, 2, 3, 4 up. My run is to the left, 1 to the left, so that's negative 1. So my rise over run, my slope is 4 over negative 1, which is negative 4. So now let's put it all together. We get y equals my slope times x, so negative 4 times x, plus my y-intercept, so plus 2. So my answer is negative 4x plus 2, which is, excuse me, right over here. Y equals negative 4x plus 2. Let's go to the number 14. Find the equation of the line that passes through the points. All right, I'm going to go to like a full screen here because I'm going to need some room. Okay, so first thing I need to figure out, I have 2 points. What can I figure out based on 2 points? I can figure out the slope, right? So whether you do y sub 2 minus, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, I like calling it the change in y over the change in x. They both really mean the same thing. I'm going to do this. I like to put my points one above the other. All right, this is my x coordinate, this is my y coordinates. So my y is going to be 5 minus negative 1. So 5 minus negative 1. So if I do 5 minus negative 1, I have to do 0 minus 2. 0 minus 2. So what does that give me? 5 minus negative 1 is 5 plus 1, which is 6. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. So I get a slope of 3 over negative 2, which is negative 3. Now that I have my slope, I now take the equation. Let me switch up the colors here. And I take my y equals mx plus b, and I take the equation now, and I use this as my slope. So y equals negative 3x plus b. All right, but I now have a bunch of variables I need to solve for. But the good news is I can use one of these points. I can take one of these points, plug it in, and figure out what my y-intercept is. Now, I'm going to show you a cool little thing here. If I put 0 in for x and 5 in for y, look what happens. So 5 equals negative 3 times 0 plus b. So you get 5 equals negative 3 times 0 is 0. So 0 plus b is b. So I know my slope is negative 3. My intercept is 5. So I actually could then write the equation y equals mx plus b. So y equals my slope, which is negative 3 times x, plus what's left over here. The intercept is 5's, negative 3x plus 5. So this is the right answer. Now, I always like to then take my other point and test it out. So let's take 2 for x and plug it in and see what happens. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6, plus 5 is negative 1. So when x is positive 2, y has to be negative 1 to make this equation true. So that's the equation that would work for both of these points. So that's the equation of the line. The other thing you might have noticed is once we got the slope, we actually already had the y-intercept given to us. So that we didn't even need to do this whole calculation here because we had the y-intercept and we figured out the slope separately. All right, let's do number 15. Find the equation of the line that passes through those 2 points. So once again, I have y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. I call it the change in y over the change in x. They both mean the same thing. Let me change the color up here. So here are my points. I have 3, 3. This is my x-coordinate. This is my y. And I have 1, negative 5 for my other points. So 3, 3, and 1, negative 5. So my change in y, I'm going to do 3 minus negative 5. 3 minus negative 5 is my change in y. My change in x is going to be 3 minus 1. So 3 minus 1. So 3 minus negative 5 is going to be 3 plus 5, which is 8. My 3 minus 1, my change in x, is going to be 2, which means my slope is 8 over 2, which is 4. Right? So slope is equal to 4. So now that I have my slope, if I take the standard y equals mx plus b format, I can replace my slope with 4. So I get y equals 4x plus b. Well, now I have 3 variables, but what could I do? Well, if I take one of these 2 points, and it doesn't matter which one, I'm actually going to use 1 and -5. If I replace x with 1 and y with -5, and then I have one variable to solve for. So let me take -5, I replace y with that, equals 4 times my x, so 4 times 1 plus b, right? All right, well, now I have one variable to solve for. -5 equals 4 times 1 is 4 plus b. Subtract 4 from both sides, and I get -9 equals b. So my slope is 4, my y-intercept is -9. All right, let's find another handy-dandy color for this. Let's go with blue. So my equation is going to be y equals slope times x, so 4 times x, plus -9, or minus 9. So y equals 4x minus 9. Now, what I like to do at this point is just test out the other point that I didn't use to find the intercept. Go with just plain old black. So if I plug in 3 and 3, so 3 for x and 3 for y, well, let's see what happens. 3 equals 4 times 3 minus 9. Is that true? Well, 4 times 3 is 12. So 3 equals 12 minus 9. Well, yeah, 12 minus 9 is 3, so 3 equals 3. So yeah, it does work for both this point, 3, 3, and 1, -5. So there you go. All right, hope you found the video helpful.